made some videos about the book George Gershwin for solo jazz guitar. And in this video I'm going to show you some more samples, and actually they're from the Hal Leonard website. If you want to see some more samples of the music, you can go to the Hal Leonard website, halleonard.com, and just type my name and you'll find the book easily. So if you go to the website halleonard.com and you type my name, you can find the book with the green cover, George Gershwin for solo jazz guitar. And then there's a video of me playing some samples from this book, from YouTube actually. But there's also a button on the left side, Closer Look. If you press Closer Look, then you get a page where you can see some samples of the music. So for instance, I click now sample page 5, which is the first page of the song I Loves You, Porgy. And you can zoom in a little, so you get this. So here you see the first page of I Loves You, Porgy. So let's have a look at that. It's written in F here, and the melody, as you may know, goes like... or... and it's slow, of course, so it starts on a C chord, and then working in the melody it becomes something like this. The G flat is a substitute for C. So again. F major 7th, sharp 5, F6 9. So that bit of melody goes. And then it continues. Just B flat major 9th. The melody continues. G minor 11. And returns to F. And then it has to go to A minor, so it goes like this. And the chord sequence would naturally be something like this. But the melody comes first, so we get this. So the melody starts before I arrive at the A minor chord. It's like a little pause here. D minor 9th. And then the melody goes, which is on the G minor chord. But because the melody is played quite low, if I want to play this G minor chord, I have the 9th here. And it's a bit difficult to play the third, the minor third. So one way to kind of solve that is to finish the chord after you play the melody note. So then you get this. So I've played the melody here, and then I'm kind of finishing the chord by playing the third and the rest of the chord. So that's how you get this. So you have heard the melody, but you also finished the chord. And if you're playing this, you want to try and to emphasize the melody a bit. So it's also a bit of a matter of timing. So make sure the melody is heard and then finish the chord. And then it continues. The melody jumps up here an octave because I want to end here on this note. I don't want really to end here because then it would be difficult to play a full chord with the melody here down below. So I prefer to end this section on the F here or here. So that's why the melody goes from this very low register and it jumps up an octave. And then on the final chord of this this section, the melody is just a straight F and the chord is F. So, but to play a straight F would be a bit boring. So instead of playing, you could do that, it's not bad, but I prefer to play the F major 7th. But quite often if you play a major 7th chord, you would have the major 7th maybe on top of the chord or somewhere inside, but now we want to have the F melody note on top, just the straight F. And actually you can just do that, so you can just have the major 7th here and the F on top, which you might think not a good idea. It seems to clash if you play it like this, but if you play the chord in a certain way, so if you sort of break it up and first play the F, the bass note F, and then fill in the rest of the chord. The major 7th is now here. It actually sounds quite nice, I think. So that's the first page of I Loves You, Porgy. Let's look at another sample. So here we have sample page 3 on the Hal Leonard website, and that's the first page of But Not For Me. And in that arrangement I chose to start it with kind of an arpeggio feeling. So maybe you know the melody goes like this. So I start with arpeggios and with a B flat pedal note. And I want to keep the pedal note in for now. And keeping the pedal note. Actually, the most obvious chord would be so a B flat sus, but I like to change the color a little bit by lowering the 9th here, so then you get this. Actually, it sounds a little sadder, and I think the lyrics of this song are a bit sad, so I think it's quite appropriate to play this sadder version of the B flat chord instead of this. And then it continues just straightforward following the melody. And then later in the arrangement it goes more into tempo, it also modulates. But another aspect I would like to discuss briefly is what if you are playing these arrangements with a pick. And most of them I've recorded picking with fingers, but some of you will be playing it with a pick perhaps, and sometimes you have to make a few small adaptations. So let's take this as an example. If you pick with fingers, you play like this. With a pick, that's still possible, almost the same way. But sometimes you need to skip a string. So for instance, in this chord, I don't really want to play this low E flat note. It's not exactly wrong, but it sounds quite muddy if I play it with a pick and I would play this, then it would include this E flat here, which is not wrong, but a bit muddy, so I prefer to skip it. Now when I pick with fingers, I just don't pick this string. So I just skip the fifth string. If you play with a pick, you cannot easily do that, and so you may have to break up the chord like this. You play the bass note first, and then the rest. And so in that way you can skip the fifth string in this case. So instead of playing this, you play. And if you use that principle, it becomes... you can play this chord still in one stroke, because the fifth string is muted with your left hand. You don't hear that. So here you don't have to break up the chord. But here, this is quite easy to do if you play with fingers. But if you want to do that with a pick, it's a bit more difficult. Then you have to break it up. At least that's one way of doing it. Sometimes you can try to find a different fingering on the fretboard that allows you to mute a string so that you can play it in one stroke. So you have to find out what is the best way to do it. In this case, I would just break up the chords a bit. And let's see, for instance, this chord. This E flat chord with a G in the bass. Again, if I do that with fingers, I would play the chord like this, with my index finger across the strings. That's the easiest way to do it. But if I want to play this with a pick, then the fifth string again is in the way. I don't want to have this note. I don't want that, so I want to skip the fifth string. And of course I can break up the chord, but with this sliding it becomes a bit difficult. So then I would probably decide to play it with a different fingering. So not with my index finger like this, but using all four fingers to play it like this. Because then the fifth string is muted and I can play it in one stroke. So if you play this with a pick, you have to make some minor adjustments here and there. And that's fine, because this is not classical music. You don't have to play it exactly the way it is written. And on the topic of how to play these arrangements, again, this is not classical music, so there's no reason why you would have to play it exactly as written. If you want to interpret it a little bit differently in your own way, instead of playing these arpeggios, for instance, if you want to play it a bit more freely, for instance like this, still playing the same notes, basically the same chords, but just interpreting it a little bit differently. And of course, you're totally free to do that. Okay, so let's have a look at one more sample from the Hal Leonard website. So now I'm going to show you a sample of Embraceable You. And that is actually sample page 4. Zooming in, Embraceable You. The melody actually starts here really at the B part. The A part is a short introduction. The melody goes like... it's written here in C. And actually this beginning is a little bit similar to the one of But Not For Me, because it also starts in a kind of an arpeggio style, using open strings. So here's the melody. C6 and major 7th. This actually is derived from a C diminished chord, but to work in the melody you get this. So using the open B string also. And then to continue I could have played a regular D minor 7. But I decided to keep the C as a kind of a pedal note. You get this instead of this. And now the melody ends here on G in this section. And this G is also a bit low in the sense that if you want to play a full chord with the G melody here, you could play a chord like this, for instance. I don't really like the sound of that very much, so I prefer to use the, let's say, the trick of playing the melody note first and then finishing the chord after. And then you get something like this. So the melody note is clear, and then after I've played that, I finish the chord to make it a fuller chord. And actually I play a sus chord as well as a ninth chord. So sometimes you end up in a situation where you want to play a melody note, and if you played an octave higher it may be too high. If you played an octave lower it's not too low, but it's difficult to play it with a full chord. And then you can use a thing like this where you play the melody note separate from the chord, and then you can sort of make the chord anything you want because you have you've already played the melody note and then the chord follows. It's also, of course, a little bit a question of dynamics and timing, so you want to make sure that the melody note comes out well. Don't play too quickly. Take your time. Take your time to let the melody note ring before you finish the chord. I'm exaggerating a little bit now, but you get the idea. You want to play the melody note first and then finish the chord. And also this arrangement goes into different tempos later on, and it modulates, and all kinds of things happen inside this arrangement. And one more hint, if you want to see a little bit more of these arrangements, you can also go to another page where you can actually purchase separate tunes. So if you don't want the whole book, but you want to buy some tunes. So if you're on the page displaying the book, if you go a little bit down, below the song list, there's a link to Sheet Music Direct. And if you go to Sheet Music Direct, there you can actually buy separate songs, individual songs. But the other nice thing is that you can also see the first page of every song here. So here you see the complete first page of It's Wonderful. And so there you can see the first page of all 15 songs. And together with the videos that I've made, I think you can get a pretty good idea of what to expect from this book. And don't forget, you can also go to the audio, if you have the book, you can also go to the audio player on the Hell Leonard website and play all the songs in full. And slow them down and play sections and repeat and all of that, which I explained in another video. So I hope that this explanation was useful, and see you next time.